This is the sort of day that was supposed to be a rubber stamp event to basically bring in the new Chancellor of Germany, Europe's biggest economy. You're going to have a handoff of power from the SPD, from Olaf Scholz to the CDU, Friedrich Merz, by 3 p.m. today. You had the early vote in Parliament where all the lawmakers assembled to get that 316 votes over the majority in order to basically continue with the procedural steps that would end with a new Chancellor of Germany. That is not what happened. There was a complete explosion of basically all expectations here. It fell short of the votes. 310 votes. It shocked everybody in the room. You saw the Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, his jaw dropped, shaking his head when he went to go consult with the other leaders of the different coalition and caucuses within the parliament. There was one person who was laughing audibly, very loudly within the auditorium, and that was the leader of the far-right AfD, Alice Weidel, who found it obviously hilarious and basically has been campaigning throughout this entire time on a platform that basically the German political establishment, mainstream parties, are broken and are not effective. The question is what happens next, Danny. In order to answer that question, we all had to break out our German constitutions to figure out procedurally what happened, because this has literally never happened in modern German history. And what we understand from Article 63 of this constitution is that if that first vote fails, they will hold another set of votes. They can hold a number of different ones over the 14-day period of time. If those all fail, Danny, we are talking about potentially another election in Germany at a time when over the last couple of weeks we have seen for the very first time in German history the AfD, the far right, polling in some polls in the #1 slot. We should say that is not the base case scenario. We do not expect another vote today. We could have one as early as tomorrow, but this is a total bomb in the middle of the sort of German political establishment on a day that was supposed to bring in a new era of stability, fiscal stimulus, and bringing the economy back together. That is not what happened.
Oliver, first off, let me say you would have a pocket German constitution. Nothing about that surprises me. But second of all, what does this mean for the mandate that Merz was supposed to have, even if he is eventually sworn in as Chancellor? The big projects that Germany was supposed to be undergoing, the spending on infrastructure, on military, do we need to question all of that now?
Listen, I think it shows you just how fragile the German political establishment is right now. If you cannot even get this grand coalition, we should say that the majority of coalitions in German history since the end of the Second World War and since the fall of the Berlin Wall have been the SPD and the CDU. This is a sort of normal arrangement for sort of politics as usual in Germany. This is not a rare coalition like we had the last time around, which was really kind of a slobby coalition of the Greens, the sort of liberals, and the socialists. If they cannot even get their acts together, it's a real question about how effective they're going to be at uniting the country. As you say, Danny, we have that €1 trillion worth of stimulus. Where does that leave things? How quickly can they deploy that? If there is this level of political disagreement, even in the early stages, how are they going to agree on how to spend and disperse that money? There is also the fact that Friedrich Merz needs to be a strong leader of Germany, not just to unite the country, but to be a presence on the international stage, to deal with Donald Trump, to lead within Europe, and also to potentially broker new trade agreements now that the U.S. is basically stepping out of the multilateral trading and neoliberal order. That's going to have to be Germany and Europe. This does not seem like a chancellor that is very strong. And of course, Danny, the other thing that it puts even more pressure on is this question of immigration. This has been the #1 topic for a number of Germans. This is definitely the #1 topic for the AfD. These are all the things that the chancellor now needs to tackle. He wanted to hit the ground running. He hasn't even hit the ground.
Oliver, just quickly before you go, is there a chance that Merz doesn't become the next chancellor now?
Listen, we've heard some commentary really in the first few minutes after this vote came out. Again, this is from parties a little bit more on the fringes. We heard from the left saying that basically if Merz and this coalition can't even get their act together in the Berlin bubble, how on earth are they supposed to unite the country, and that maybe Merz is not the right man for the job. And we should say, Danny, that in the lead up to this election, in the election campaign, there had been questions about whether Friedrich Merz would be the right man to lead Germany, whether he's not a very, popular politician domestically. This is not someone that has a huge amount of charisma and is able to rally a lot of people behind him. I think right now the base case is that will not happen. But again, Danny, we are operating in a world politically, not just in Germany, but globally, in non-zero chances of what happens in politics. So listen, we're going to have to watch it very closely. We'll have to keep you updated as this sort of unfurls and also see how the market takes it.